Hi everyone, how's it going? Welcome back to the channel, and as you guys can tell, I'm using my actual camera for this video because there's some problems that I'm having with my phone, and for those who don't know, I have been recording my more recent videos from my phone if you haven't noticed. But yeah, there's been some problems I've been having with that. It's lacking storage for some reason. So yeah, I have to inconveniently use my camera, and it's ridiculous because videos take forever to upload once I use my camera. That's why I've been using my phone for my more recent videos, despite the lower quality. But yeah, it's unfortunate, but here I am going to be making this video on my camera. But I will be uploading this video raw. So today I want to talk about my experience with classic metal. Now, I would say that I've kind of been all over the place when it comes to my metalhead journey. Now, I didn't really get into metal until my senior year of high school, and I know that might blow the minds of some of you because some of you might think, wow, that's really late in life. Because I know a lot of people usually don't start getting into metal till at least like middle school, which the thing about that is, like, when I was in middle school, I didn't even touch the surface of hard rock yet. So, you know that I had some keeping up to do. I pretty much got into hard rock like towards like the beginning of high school, and then got into metal like at the tail end of high school. So that's kind of how that worked out for me. I'm usually later than others when it comes to certain things anyway. So yeah, and I would never thought that classic metal would be a thing of mine. Now, of course, metalcore was my main go-to subgenre whenever I first got into metal, and I didn't really become a fan of the classics till 2016. I got into bands like Metallica mainly. Metallica was actually my first classic metal band, and obviously, they're thrash metal. And, I guess the thing that made me as someone who mainly listened to modern metal, I think one of the things that made me feel obligated to check out classic metal, or like really wanted to try to get into it, was to have some metalhead growth and some musical growth as well, because I just want to grow in that way, I think, and really expand my metal horizons, I guess. And I've been hearing a lot about Iron Maiden whenever I wanted to get into classic metal. I believe it or not, but when I first checked out Iron Maiden, I was just not feeling it. As crazy as that sounds, because they're one of my favorite bands now. But I think the problem was that, of course, when I listened to them, I thought, wow, this is like not my style. Like, this is nothing that I typically listen to. Like, most of the metal I listen to has screaming in it, and this type of metal doesn't do it for me. And that's the kind of mindset that I had. Or it's because it didn't have like this hard edge to it, or it didn't sound cool enough for me or something. Which is just a ridiculous mindset to have. I mean, I hated that I had that mindset, but of course this was a few years ago, and of course a lot has changed in 3 years, so yeah. I'm really glad that I did break from that, though, but I didn't really get into Iron Maiden until like a little bit later, like late 2016, early 2017, because like I said, Metallica was actually my first classic metal band. And I think the reason that I got into Metallica first was because they were like one of the closest classic metal bands to modern metal. And they sounded heavier than Iron Maiden, at least at the time for me. Like, they had that, intenseness going for them, while Iron Maiden was a little bit more on the, like, because, Iron Maiden's more like new wave metal. So Metallica kind of suited my style a little bit more. And that's why I got into them. And one of the things that I even said whenever I got into Metallica was, this will probably be the only classic metal band I ever be into. And man, am I dead wrong about that. Because let me tell you something. Nowadays, I prefer classic metal over modern metal. And I've said this before and I'll say it again, I'm pretty much done with checking out, modern metal bands because I pretty much have all the modern metal bands that I'm into. I don't have any desire to check out anymore. So if someone, wants to comment and recommend bands that formed in this generation, I would just say save the finger exercise. Because, I'm done with this sort of era. Not that I'm done listening to music from this era. Of course, as you guys know, I like bands like Demon Hunter, As I Lay Dying, August Burns Red, Trivium. There's many bands that, are formed in the 2000s that I still will like and will buy their albums when they come out. But I'm just talking bands that I like and not into. You know what I mean? So overall, yeah, the days of me checking out metalcore and just modern metal in general are pretty much done. But that's not to say that I don't. It's not that I don't like modern metal anymore. It's just I'm already into all the modern metal I want to be into. That's all. And classic metal has really just sparked my interest the most. And that I've really come a long way whenever I got into a band like Led Zeppelin. Now, Led Zeppelin isn't really metal, but they definitely had an impact towards the metal genre, even though they're classified as hard rock, classic hard rock. And the craziest thing about that is, even the days when I did get into Metallica, I couldn't imagine myself getting even into Led Zeppelin. And it's amazing how far your musical journeys go. And like I said in that rant video about Breaking Benjamin fans or whatever, I know I unlisted that video and everything, and I hate to bring that video back up, but I think it's an appropriate example. I think things like this are what I mean by musical growth. Try out things in music that you typically don't listen to. If you're someone who listens to the heavier side of music, check out bands like Led Zeppelin. Kind of like how I did. I was someone who, started off with hard rock, then got into metalcore, and then I wanted to get into classic metal, and with Metallica, and then I go from that to Led Zeppelin. Obviously, I had to make my way there. After I got into Metallica, I got into Iron Maiden, finally. I finally gave them other chances and, got into them. And I enjoy their music a lot now and appreciate their music, of course. And I also got into bands like Megadeth, Black Sabbath, who else? You could count Dream Theater as classic metal, even though they're late 80s, early 90s. Queensryche as well. Queensryche's actually one of the more recent classic metal bands I got into. And it really does go to show because I'm getting into classic rock now even. I'm into bands like Led Zeppelin and the band Rush. I mean, it's just crazy because I had no idea what I was missing out on. So, yeah, I know I already made a video about, classic metal versus modern metal, about how each side should check out the opposite. I mean, that still applies. You should definitely feel more obligated to check out both sides. Now, I know I said before that I'm done with checking out modern bands, but that's because I already have enough, modern metal bands in my library and, bands that I'm a fan of. But it's one thing to, not like any band from a certain era for some reason. So, yeah, and I know that, I encouraged one of my good subscribers to check out classic metal who didn't like it prior. You know who you are. So, yeah. That's pretty much it for my journey with classic metal, I think. It's really been a great experience, and it's really satisfying to be into. especially since, you know, I guess I didn't think it was something I could ever get into, but it's something that I am into now and I enjoy it, and it's some of my most listened to bands these days are bands that like formed in the 70s and 80s. Specifically Iron Maiden, because I've been listening to them a lot, especially these last couple of years. I mean, they're really a phenomenal band. But yeah, I want to know your guys' experience with classic metal. Is it something that you kind of recently got into? Like I said, I started getting into it in 2016, which is a little bit later, but hey, whatever, right? Anyway, that's it for this video. Thanks for watching. Have a nice day. Take care.